introduce you shortly in Slovenian language to other colleagues. But before that, I'd like to say a few words to you to understand who we have here. So we have Secretary General of the Ropeway Association, Mr. Danilo Brecelj, Mr. Fedio Pobegajlo, who you met yesterday. He's Director of Chamber of Hospitality and Gastronomy. He's managing a lot of stakeholders. Here on the right, on the top, you can see Mr. Marko Lenarčič, who is Director of association of
Slovenia Outdoor. Yes.
Slovenia Outdoor. That means all kind of activities connected with our resorts. We have here also Janez Dekleva, member of executive board of our chamber, who is responsible for education, and ex-president of Ropeway Association of Slovenia, Mr. Ernest Kovač, who used to work as well as a coach of a Canadian national ski team, and I'm sure he knows also your resorts a lot. Zdaj, ostalih kolegov sicer ne vidim tu, mislim pa, da je to glavna skupina tistih, ki bomo danes skušali malo diskutirati o priložnostih za slovenske gorske centre. Kolega Audet je v Kanadi, v tem vzhodnem delu Kanade, ki ima sicer manjša smučišča, kot jih poznamo na oni strani, kot so Whistler in druga velika smučišča. Ravno zato se mi zdi zanimivo, saj so na nek način smučišča primerljiva z slovenskimi po velikosti. Ko sem lani sam potoval konec zimske sezone in v pričetku, bi rekel, pomladi pri njih in so zaključevali obratovanje smučišč, je bilo veliko aktivnosti usmerjenih v poletne produkte in pomladansko, poletno, jesenske produkte, bi rekel. In to me je ravno navdalo z idejo, da povabim kolega Audeta, da nam predstavi njihov pogled. Je pa on, kot bo sam več povedal, dolgoletni delavec v turizmu, sam tudi vodil rezorte, delal na strokovnem področju, še zdaj je profesor, deluje v izobraževanju v Kanadi in zelo aktiven pri planiranju in marketinških aktivnostih. Jaz pa mislim, da vse, kar o marketingu pa o trženju, še posebej, ker je ta del Kanade zelo odvisen od svojih gostov, torej Kanadčanov ali pa tistih, ki živijo v Quebecu, mogoče ravno zaradi tega toliko bolj pomembno. So, Sylvain, as mentioned, here is a group of people who are really specialists, who work for many years very actively in the mountain resort industry. Fedio Pobegajlo, by the way, was director of one of the biggest Slovenian hotel company that act in Kranjska Gora, world name resort for organizing different kind of world-class events. So hopefully we will have also Gorazd Bedrač, who used to manage Mariborski resort, and he's one of the first guys who introduced technical snow and innovations in a snow industry. But now the floor is yours, so please present us your presentation you prepared, and then we will discuss about the topic.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Do you see my presentation on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So just a small work of a friend of mine who asked him to do something special drawing for my presentation. So that's a kind of a smile to my presentation. I don't know if Mr. P mentioned that we started a conversation sometime during the winter about ski area development and the arrival of Club Med here in Canada. So it's how we met. So we started that conversation months ago. one small detail about the publicity of my conference. My conference will not be only about Quebec, it will be about Eastern Canada, and you will see in my presentation that I cover more than one region. So just to be sure that's clear, and it's a kind of a introduction to the ski industry here in Eastern Canada. So that's the goal of that presentation. I will skip that slide. That's an academic slide. So to introduce that will be all the topic we will do. I think Mr. P mentioned who I am. Just to make a quick introduction, I'm a full-time consultant in leisure and tourism here in Eastern Canada, a part-time university professor, a part-time student at the doctoral level, and a full-time dad. So my plate is full. So that's it. How's the sound so far? Is the sound okay?
It's good. It's good. It's very good.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So let's go in the just to let you introduce to Canada. Many you have known that it's a huge country, as you can see, and we can split the country in 5 different zones. We have the Atlantic, Quebec, Ontario, the Prairie, the Rockies Mountain, and the Territory. And just to give you an idea that on average, you can find 4 people per square kilometer. So it's a huge country for 35 million of people. So it's huge. Where I live, I think sometime in the year, I see more deer than people. So just to let you know that it's a huge country, and that's important. But probably, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. Those 3 cities accounted for 35% of the population. So it's very concentrated. It's those cities where those are the main market for ski area here in Canada. My presentation, I will just cover this part. When I'm talking about Eastern Canada, is Ontario, Quebec, and blah, blah, blah. And just why I limited that, because it's where I work. I don't work with ski area out west. I work mainly with those ski area here in the east. At this time, I have 3 surveys going on. One with Quebec only, with the wage and salary survey, and Ontario and the Atlantic each have their own questionnaire about the end of the season. So it's a kind of a resume of the season in terms of ski visit, marketing, financial, name it. It's quite a complete report. So just to let you know that our big mountain, probably Whistler, where we had the Olympic a couple of years ago. So that's a huge mountain. When you look on the right side of your screen, you see on the top here, it's Marble Mountain in Newfoundland, and you have this mountain in north of Toronto. It's called Blue Mountain, and that's the mountain.
Excuse me. Colleagues, do you see the presentation, or you don't see it as well?
We only see cover photo, only the first side.
Sylvain, we only see cover photo, so you should continue on a PowerPoint slideshow, because we cannot see. We only see the now we see. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. That's technology. We have to improvise. So as I would mention, it's a huge country, and we have Whistler at one end of the country where we have the Olympic, and on the other end we have smaller mountain like Blue Mountain. We have less than 200 meters. So that's when we are talking about the ski industry in Canada, you have the west with the Rockies, and you have the east. And it's a very, very different country. Just to let you know about organization in Canada. We have a kind of a Canadian body called the Canadian Ski Council. The member of the Canadian Ski Council are owner, ski patrol, ski instructor, everything related to the mountain. But when you look at Canada West, Ontario, Quebec, and the Atlantic, that's an owner association. It's quite different. The dynamic is quite different. The Canadian Ski Council is promoting winter activities, and when you look at the other association, they are promoting alpine skiing. So that's kind of different. You have also some numbers. When you look at each association, the numbers of area across the country, so it's very, very different. So when you look at the number of ski area, we have 282 to 8 ski area across the country. 1/3 out west and 2/3 in the east. On average, we have 18 million ski visits. Ski visit is a ticket sold. So if you people go one time, it's one visit. It's come the day after, it's another visit, and so on. So that's the number of visits we have. On average, 21% of the population in Canada ski. It's quite, it's a challenge. Because our core skier and snowboarder are getting older, and younger people are not coming here in the sports. So that's the challenge we have here in Canada. It's the same thing in the US. And that's why we don't have any, it's not 100% people who are skiing. And we have a lot of people who are coming from country who don't have any clue what's skiing, hockey is. So that's the situation. And it's a $1.2 billion industry. And that's just to be clear, that's direct revenue. So is the total business revenue for the 228 ski area. It doesn't include hotels that are not owned by the mountain, though it's another total. But just to let you know, that's the size of our industry. Preparing this presentation, I just say, okay, let's try to figure out what are the difference. So the first column is Canada West, is Western Canada, Ontario, Toronto. Manage is Montreal, and the Atlantic is the Halifax area. And I have found some stats about your industry. So just fun to see that if we cross the Canada West column, it's quite similar in terms of area. So yeah, 266 vertical scale drop. That's your size, and it's quite similar to what we have here in Quebec and the Atlantic. I just put maximum summit, the highest peak. And it's quite interesting, but one thing I have to mention about the geography of Canada is in Eastern Canada, we are almost at sea level. So it's why some of our peaks are quite high, but have a high point, but not in terms of total vertical. And you see there, so which area is the highest peak, highest vertical, and the number of right. So just to continue regarding our business model here in Eastern Canada and Canada and the US in general, it's here what's the typical American. I don't like the word American resort, but that's the model we have. We have a mountain who drive the show, if I can say, tickets, rental, snow school, bar, and restaurant. So when a skier or snowboarder coming to an area, they are dealing with only one a company or entity, compared to the European model where you have the tourism board, local government, and an independent operator like restaurant and ski instructor. Here it's all in people who are coming here. It's there. when I was preparing my presentation, I didn't find any information about your business model in Slovenia, but maybe I will learn that later today. Just to continue regarding our business model, I just mentioned that we have that's kind of my research, and probably will be my doctorate thesis, and about business model. At this point, okay, I find out that ski area in Eastern Canada and in North America in general, you have one business model is public service, like football field, the library, the pool. You have the snow school model. That's the most common model, and you have the destination. People are going there, and you have the choice between the European model or the North American model, and on the top area you have all possible promoter. It can be public, it can be a private. Public-private partnership, it can be not-for-profit organization, it can be private company, and private company you can have a lot of forms. And when you look at this model, you have a possibility of 24 combination model possible. So that's quite interesting. As I mentioned, when skier and snowboarder want to go skiing or snowboarding, they make a research. They say we want to go to this mountain and make their reservation. They are dealing. Sometimes they make a hotel reservation, but it's a different way. It's two different reservation. But mainly when skier and snowboarder here in the East are planning their trip, they are dealing with the mountain, not the hotel, unless they need accommodation. And many skier and snowboarder, they have a chalet near the mountain. That's why they are skiing at this specific mountain. Just to let you know that when people are choosing a mountain, they are choosing because of the trail and so on. Some skier offer night skiing. Some offer tubing, skating. A few are offering cat skiing, but as you see on the slides, cross-country, fat bike, that's our activity possible in some area. Because we found here that sometimes in a family, you don't have all the members of the family who are skiers. So sometimes people will do skiing, and some member of the family will go cross-country skiing, but they will all agree to come for lunch at the mountain. So people, when you have a group, mountaineer have to offer different activities, and that's the winter one. Just look at my number. Okay, those are the activities. That's what's happening here in the ski area in the East in general, from, let's say, end of November to the beginning of April. So you will all agree that you cannot survive by having only winter activity. Some area decided to add activities. What's on this side is those activities with a lot that need a lot of capital investment, like golf, water park, mountain slide, treetops. On the left side here, it's those activities are low investment, but the advantage of developing any type of summer activity, it's help you to face your fixed costs, and sometimes to keep key staffer, because you cannot keep people only for 4 months. You need them to be there at your mountain for a year round. Other activities, okay, that's we have a fall foliage season, and that's a lot of people are going at the mountain and take the lift to the mountain and enjoy the surrounding. You have also mountain biking, trekking, and festival. It's a beer festival at the bottom of the mountain. The mountain offers the site, and the organizer planned the rest. But it's make the festival quite fun because you're outside, blah blah blah. So that's the possibility of skiing. So when we look at our clientele, 80% of our clientele are from our own province. So if you are in New Brunswick, 80% of their clientele are coming from New Brunswick, 10% from other provinces of Canada, and 10% from outside Canada. When I mean outside Canada is US. Say of the 10%, 8% is US and 2% are European skier. One strategy we have here when we are looking for skier, we try to attract people who are within 8-hour drive from the mountain. It's that we call that the rubber tire market. So if you take for example, you take Quebec City and you draw a circle of 8 hours, people will be coming from those regions. And here at the bottom, you have the New England area, okay, where you have somewhere here, it will be New York City, Boston, and so on. That's the New England area. That's the population there. It's 15 million of people. So plus what we have here in the east. So we have a market. The market size is among almost 30 million people. When you have to do the math, that when you look at it and say, okay, it's only 20% of the people who can see, so the number of client possible narrow down. So that's our the market. When we look at our marketing, the main marketing strategy is try to be different from the other. It's not always possible, but sometimes people find a way to be different. You cannot be a destination all the time. Some areas too small to be a destination, so it's a business. It's the snow school model. So that's the possibility. That's why they try to differentiate them from the other. One way to differentiate that is by offering night skiing, glade races, and those kind of special activity. The other part of the presentation is the communication aspect, because when I'm teaching, I try to make the difference between marketing and communication. Okay, when you look at the slide, okay, the top is the web, social media, radio, television, newspaper, magazine, and trade show, ski show. What we see is people are investing more and more money in the web, more and more money in social media. They keep the investment in radio almost the same, because sometimes when you have a big snowfall and you want to advertise that, hey guys, it's come to the mountain, we have fresh snow, radio is still a good way. And you cannot forget ski magazine to show your mountain, or trade show also. A newspaper and television is down. It's quite normal, because people are not watching TV anymore or reading newspaper. So when you look at the expense in communication, that's the trend I saw in the industry, in Eastern industry. And the topic of the year, it's COVID, the COVID thing. I just want to cover a couple of things. That's what's going on here in the East. We are under stay-home orders since March 13. So we are beginning our 10th week. So that's it's quite difficult. We have daily briefing by the federal and the provincial government. It's almost like a soap opera or a TV reality show. It's people are they are looking for that presentation. Essential services are there, but that's normal. But the most important thing is the Canada-US border will remain closed until June 21st. So we cannot expect to see any people from the state coming in Canada in general. So that's it's kind of weird. The other slide is mentioning that some stores are reopening. We are in a reopening process. It's changed every day. Every day we have information from the government that this type of store can open in a couple of days. This type of store can remain closed, and that's the situation. Actually, Quebec is kind of leading in terms of reopening compared to other eastern provinces, but to a certain point, Quebec, many provinces are looking at Quebec and say, okay, is it good? Do they have good result or not? When we look at the tourism industry, as I mentioned, limited number of stores were open. Only drive-through store were available. Drive-through restaurant were possible, available. So that's the kind of a weird situation. If you want to go to a restaurant, you cannot go in a restaurant. You have to go to the drive-through or the counter and bring the meal to your house. You cannot stay in the enjoy your meal in the restaurant. Each sector of the tourism industry here in the East are planning the reopening, and they have to present their proposal to the government, and the government will decide which one is it okay or not. And I was attending a conference yesterday, and people from the ski industry say, one question was, what is our plan to reopen in next winter? And people say, we don't know. It's a kind of wait and see situation, and it's changed everything. So that's that's the situation. That's the end of my presentation. Just remember, I will take a 30-second for my promotion, and this are the services I'm provided as a consultant. So if you need some help, I'm available. And in conclusion, we have many common elements when I'm compared the Eastern Canada and Slovenia. So that's an interesting aspect. I cannot forget to mention that I got the help from the Slovenian embassy here in Canada. So I'll just say, I don't know if you are on the call, but thank you. And Stuart Wheeler from the Global Affairs Canada who helped me with that. And I'm ready for a question if you have. Otherwise, thank you for the invitation. It was a fun presentation to prepare. So, shoot.
Thank you, Sylvain. Thank you, Sylvain. Obviously, I am registered twice. I don't know why, and I don't know how to go out, but I try to solve the problem. So I would just start with the first question, and then for you, Sylvain. Slovenia is out of COVID. We reopened the summer ski resort, but what I would like to discuss today is mostly cooperation in Quebec between different stakeholders in mountain resort. who is financing what, and how your government support the resorts?
Okay, regarding support from the government, at this point, the only help we got from the government, the provincial, mainly it's the federal government, it's kind of a emergency wage support that would last. It's not only offered to tourism sector, but it's all for every company here in Canada. And and regarding the support of the tourism industry by the government is from the federal. We don't have any clue what they have in mind, but the one thing I have to mention that tourism is not a responsibility of the federal government. It's a responsibility of the province of Ontario, Quebec, and so on. So each one are planning their way. So far, the only thing I saw is reopening of provincial and national park. Restaurant will be able to reopen with only 10 people outside, and that's the situation. I hope I answer your question, because the sound was bad. Is it a good answer to your question?
Yes, you did partly. The second part of my question, I will ask you later on. But I'd like to invite Fedia, the director of Chamber of Hospitality, to challenge you regarding the stakeholders' involvement in Slovenia, comparing to possibilities.
I will not challenge you too much, I promise. No, maybe a couple of comments. You presented very nice the difference between North American and European organization of ski resorts or ski business. I would still like to ask you about the accommodation facilities. Are they kind of included in ski resort or in ski companies, or are they totally separately? That would be maybe first question. The second question is you mentioned that 80% of visitors of the skiers are more or less local, and I would like to ask you, since Canada is huge country, especially if you compare it to Slovenia, are there mostly one-day visitors with no accommodation, with no overnights, or they mostly come for to spend a couple of nights and have a kind of short break? And third, not question, but I'm really surprised. So when you mentioned that you noticed that you don't have many young skiers and snowboarders, that's kind of surprise to me. So maybe also we can discuss with the others about that. But then I think that's a very big difference from European ski resorts. So that's it. So thank you in advance.
Okay, regarding lodging, it's totally independent from the mountain. Okay, except destinations. Okay, when I was talking about Whistler, Blue Mountain in Ontario, Tremblant, those are probably the only one who have their lodging facility included in their operation. Otherwise, it's a separate company, and if people or skier and snowboarder want to go to the mountain, they have to make a reservation to a different entity. So it's very, very different. When I was mentioning the $1.2 billion business, it's only the business related to ski area. Everything related to you can rent equipment outside the mountain. You can have lodging. You can eat outside the mountain. So those are not included in the 1.2 billion. So when we look at the structure of the industry in Canada, you have the mountain, and you have a lot of restaurant, bar, and hotel that are around the mountain making their own money. So that's the answer for your lodging question. About the 80%, it's always a question of how far the skier and the snowboarder are from the mountain. Okay, for example, for me, if I want to ski, the mountain is less than 15 minutes. But if I decided that I will go to a bigger mountain like Tremblant or Saint-Anne or the Massif, for example, for me driving to the Massif with a 3-hour drive, it will not be a daily trip. I will stay overnight. I do not have any statistics that say what's the breakdown between day skier and overnight skier, because all the research we are doing here regarding the managed are the hotel, the skill are managed. It's related to the number of tickets sold. Period. Is it a daily ticket, or is it a ticket for a day? People are there only for the day, or the people is there for the week? We don't care about that. So that's the situation. And can you repeat the question about skier and snowboarder?
No, it wasn't really a question. It was a bit surprise for me, because you mentioned that you don't really have many younger population at the resorts. So that's kind of a surprise for me.
That's the challenge, because younger people have a lot of possibility for their spare time. They can stay home and play games, and they can go outside. They can go to the shopping mall, whatever. And this, if I can say that, this generation have so many opportunity, or they have so many choice. So they decided that what's the easiest way to spend their free time. So that's the challenge regarding the younger population. It's when you and I were younger, okay, maybe more in my situation when I was young. During the winter I have 3 choices: alpine skiing, cross country skiing, and hockey. That's it. That's all. Now they have the time. They can choose from many other possibility in terms of to spend their free time. So that's the challenge. And we have also one challenge we have here in Eastern Canada, and mainly in the Toronto area, is to initiate people from other country, like let's say India, or country where they don't have any snow, or they don't have any winter culture. So that's this challenge, and that's a challenge they have in Ontario, about those people coming from other countries, and they are in Canada. And for many of those people, when the winter arrives, they are kind of, if I can say, shocked. That's so cold winter? That's the situation. That's the challenge we have with younger people. They have so many possibility for their free time. So
Okay. Thank you, Sylvain. Thank you.
We have with us Anders Rydelius, who is Swedish origin, but positioned currently in Austria at his home, but director of Kranjska Gora Mountain Resort. Anders, let's include you and your view, namely Kranjska Gora and Maribor, with maybe Pokljuka, are destinations that organize many different top-class events. And here I would have my part of the question for Sylvain would be, do Quebec government or Canadian government support your resorts to organize, like, let's say, cycling events like World Cup or America's Cup in mountain biking, or orienteering, or any other outdoor sports that are performed in mountain resorts. Because in Slovenia, it looks so easy that sometimes I get a feeling, and my colleagues in resorts get a feeling that this is natural, that we will organize that sport, and tourism will just bury that on their own. And sometimes we don't have too much feeling that we have a lot of financial support when applying for the events. How is in Canada?
Okay, just try to make a long answer short. We do not have direct support from the government. We have always indirect support from organization. Okay, we cannot organize an alpine race by asking the government of Quebec to sponsor the race, but we can ask the tourism department to sponsor. So we have to play with the different partners, and it's always under, it's a sponsorship. They will not rarely pay for our installation. They will say, okay, we'll pay for the new organization. But it's always a question, okay, how many people, international people, will you bring to your mountain? If the race or the event is bringing only people from Quebec, the support from the government is almost zip. But if the mountain say, I will bring people from the US and from Europe, oops, they are more interested by that. Otherwise, it's private sponsorship that support those kind of events.
Yeah, I understand, but yesterday I spoke with one of the directors that also knows organizing some events in your part of the world. And for example, multi-million event, which is a World Cup organized in Slovenia. Maybe I didn't use right expression, government, but I mean ministry. But I heard that you get quite a lot of money when you bring like World Cups or big international events. Not a sponsorship, but a support of the event. Because when the sport or tourism and sport, tourism industry and sport invest like 2 million into the event, then we expect at least, I don't know, 10%, 5%. Do you get this money or not? We need to be clear about that.
Yes, we have that kind of support. Okay, if we kind to keep it simple, yes, we have that kind of support. But each organizer or mountain have to prove to the government that they will be able to attract international people. Okay, yes, they will have support. Okay, if we keep the Canadian organization symbol, yes, they will have support for the organization, but each organization have to prove that they will attract international. That's why we spent so much money in the 2010 Olympic in Whistler Blackcomb, because they were able to provide statistical information that will bring international visitor, that will create some visibility at the international level. So that's in that situation, the government, all different level of government, were interested to put money in the organization. Otherwise, if your event is only a local or provincial race, for example, you don't expect money from the federal government. You will have it from, if it's a provincial event, you will have money from the provincial government. If it's an international event, you will have money from the federal government, from Ottawa. Is it more clear?
It is. Just maybe Anders, would you add something?
Yeah, well, the only thing I could say, I think we have a different structure here in the Alps. Now, looking at Kanskagora, you nicely said I'm director. I just say I'm the snowmaker. Our main work is to make the snow, provide the slopes, and we are just a part of a very small part of the total revenue in a ski destination, a very small part. And in this case, Kanskagora, we are luckily a part in a good brand, like you're saying, a very well-known brand through such international events like Alpine Ski World Cup, Nordic World Cup, and ski jumping. On the other side, that makes it also difficult for us to do a huge marketing and advertising because we are just operating the lifts and the slopes. But I know a little bit the structure in America and in Canada, and it's sometimes a little bit different. Very often they are real estate developers. They also rent out the beds, people, and so on, ski rental. And we just operate in Kanskagora, as you know, we just operate the lifts.
Okay.
Thank you, Anders. It's open discussion. So, Marko Lenarčić, what would you add to this discussion, please? Could you, Marko, are you with us?
Yeah, just a second. Okay, I am with you. Can we hear us?
Absolutely.
Yes, I would like to ask you if you have in your ski resorts winter and summer cards with discount cards, or for skiers or for hikers in summer to use lifts and cable cars for less money.
I just want to be sure that I understand that. Do we have special prices for skier during our season? Do we have a pricing strategy here?
No. It's more about the special kind of membership cards, and with these membership cards that you can use lifts and other services. You have kind of the system.
Okay. What we have here is what we call season passes, and usually it's access to the mountain, period. If you want to buy a ski lesson rental, it's on top. Okay, when you buy season passes, you have a privileged access to the mountain. Special when you buy, for example, if I buy a family season pass, me and my kid can go to the mountain any day, anytime, and ski an hour or the day. So when you buy those kind of tickets, that's the advantage. We don't have, when we buy those tickets, we don't have this. Do not give us any special discount to other services. Do I understand?
Yeah.
Complete. Is it what you're looking for?
Yes.
It's possible also to buy a summer season pass or just winter.
Most ski area it's only winter, but some area offer a different pass. Okay, you have winter passes and you have summer passes. Okay, for example, close where I live, you can buy for the summer a water park pass. You can buy a mountain bike pass, but it's another type of passes. So, and depend what you are offering. Okay, you can have treetop pass, but it depends what the ski area have in terms of that summer activity, because most of them, if not all, almost all of them are closed for the summer. Okay, I will say probably 75 to 80% of the ski area in the east are closed for the summer. So May 15, they closed the office and reopened that only in early September. So that's the situation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? If not, Kalinka, Greece. Okay, it's a little bit unusual. Yes, Greece has mountain resorts, but also a lot of active people who are traveling to the Western Europe. So first of all, hello to the warmest part of all 4 countries that are present in this meeting. So what would you ask our Slovenian, but also Canadian guests, colleagues, what would you ask us to offer to your clients, to send the clients from destinations that you sell your products? What would be most interesting to attract your people to come to Slovenia, to our mountain resorts?
Hello to everyone. I'm not prepared that I will take any speech, but okay, thank you very much. Greece is a summer destination, as most of you already know. So skiing is not very popular here. Mountains, which are in a driving distance from Athens. One is 1.5 hour driving, and the other one is approximately 2 hours driving. So people who are staying in Athens, if they are not so passionate skiers, they will afford their trip during the winter months, especially around the Christmas period, to travel to Slovenia or Italy or Austria, around the Alps. About Canada, truly, I cannot say how many Greeks are willing to do such a trip for a skiing. Maybe they can be counted on 2 hands how many of those will travel so far. But people who live in the northern part of Greece, for sure, the different climate than which we have here in south of Europe, are much more comfortable with skiing, and they are using their facilities which are closer to their. As I told you, I'm a person who can tell you many things about Greece, but because of my work and because of my position, network of the Spiti World, for sure there are countries which are members of which for sure will be interested to have such a presentation, and maybe next time, if we get in contact earlier, we will be able to promote both in Slovenia and maybe Canada to the wider audience, and they know exactly these ski centers, and maybe have much more of whatever will be done in these centers. Me personally, I'm skiing since I was 6 years old, and in Slovenia, in Kranjska Gora. This is all I know.
You know, Kalinka, why I, let's say again, challenged you, because we met 2 years ago in Turkey in a big network of tour operators, hundreds, that don't know about our country at all, but when they learned about Slovenia, they all started to show interest. And in these big potential markets, is especially interesting for Slovenia for the summer season, and for our mountain resort, not so much for the winter, but for summer season, because people from east and from the south, they like to go to the cooler places in summer. So to offer to those clients, because you know, last year we had. Are we still in online? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Last year we still have, and hopefully we soon have again, direct flight from Athens, direct flight from Istanbul, and so on. So because you're part of a big tour operator group, what kind of activities in the summer your clients would ask if they come to Slovenia? Mountain biking, or just relaxing, going to the lakes, or walking, or special program for this I wanted from your side. I wanted to
this is another story. I thought that I have to be more punctual about the skiing, since the presentation was for the skiing, but for sure, many of the partners in the network are interested in not only natural beauties, which Slovenia for sure has a lot to offer, starting lakes for a very nice paths, cycling for the whatever is active sport event. For sure, this is something which can operate almost 6-7 months a year during which are cooler places for sure. This is of huge interest not only for the South Europe, but also from the countries like India, which they are asking a lot about this. And needless to speak about the United States and Canada, which those people want something very local, something very beautiful. And for sure, it is gastronomy and gastronomy with wine tasting packages, which might be very, very interesting. For the people from all around the Europe, some city breaks for an extended weekend can be something interesting. So there are different things we can use differently if they are used during the summer months or during the winter months. As I told you previously, some tours which are tours around each country we are providing. Those tours which provide the most interesting and the most beautiful things which each of the countries, and they are very, very widely offered within our network. So participating them and maybe travel to Italy. Next year they will go to Spain, to Slovenia, and they are exchanging in those. They have already tried something and they want to explore more and try something.
Thank you, Kalinka. So we will try to prepare some packages starting from the point which mentioned by Marko Lenarčić. We should offer a complete tour with a special, I don't know, card or system where the guests from around the world will be able to spend active holidays during summer, spring, and autumn, especially in Slovenia. So if there is any other questions for Sylvain or just comment,
I would just like to add something, and I don't know how possible, but since we are working a lot also with shore excursions, and Koper is the only port which is offering Slovenia this possibility for cruise ships to stop. And because of the huge problem which Venice port is facing now, I don't the vicinity of Trieste and something like that could help places to Koper to grow their tourism, even just for a daily. After, when people are influenced from the beauty, for sure they want to extend their trips, and maybe some of the next trips will be for a longer stay in the country they are visiting. But unfortunately, Koper is the only port which can embark ships now.
Good idea. We'll come back to you, because in one day you can go from Koper to the mountains and back to the ship, and it's good promotion, as you said. Thank you, Kalinka. Any other comments for this session? Because 60 minutes of active time is almost here. If no other questions, I'd like to thank to all of you, especially to Sylvain, our colleagues from embassy in Ottawa, and your colleagues from government to help you with this presentation, and all of you that were actively participated in the event. So I'd like to greet Austria, Greece, Slovenia, and Canada. I wish you a lot of health and a lot of tourists, and reasonable. Don't be afraid about COVID. So we will survive as we always did, but we need to use our brains to that very clever. Have a good day and have a good week, and keep in touch. Sylvain, please stay online a little bit more longer. Bye to all other colleagues.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Damian, for the invitation. Thank you. Bye.